else in between. What's going on, you cool cats and dogs out there? It is your favorite cop guy from around the block with another installment of Fireside Chats. Thanks again for tuning in, and today is going to be a solo one, actually. Couldn't get anyone to step on with me today, but that's okay. Today it's just going to be a one-on-one with you and I, or if you're listening in a group, a little bit of a roundtable discussion. Today's podcast is going to be called Russia versus Ukraine versus, well, everyone else's opinion, to include my own. Holy shit. What in the world is going on today? Vlad the Impaler over there in Russia doing some hood rat shit to all the people in Ukraine. Doesn't really realize we all just want to get along. I don't know what's worse, mass murder or mass opinion on mass murder. Whether people's opinion matter, who knows, whatever. Does my opinion really matter? No, it doesn't, but you're sitting here listening to it anyway, so whatever. So, I mean, everyone has their opinions, and they all count until the facts come out, and they're like, well, I was wrong, or no, you're wrong, whatever. So, today we're going to have a discussion about what's going on in Europe, if you kind of haven't already figured that out already. So, Russia, doesn't really have an illustrious history. Not much unlike America, but whatever. We all have blood on our hands. Leaders like Joseph Stalin, Ivan the Terrible kind of stick out in people's minds, or maybe not if you don't remember the whole history thing, but that's neither here nor there. In a nutshell, a lot of bad things have been happening. If you haven't been paying attention to the news, if you've been living under a rock, if you're kind of like Squidward, whatever. And some people with influence are pushing something called, communism or some shit, because it worked with them at the time. And this is kind of like the Russia's history. It didn't matter. So, if you didn't believe in communism back in the day, you just got killed. So if you haven't been following along, we're going about Russia's timeline, Russia's history. Flash forward the names like, Mikhail Gorbachev and Boris Yeltsin, those guys, yeah, they did some things, but they didn't do them that great as far as in the minds and hearts of the Russian populace. Now, but Vladimir Putin, oh boy, our beautiful man on horseback, our illustrious shirtless horseless man on whatever, shirtless horseman on horseback, whatever. Good old, yeah, that's what I wrote. Yeah, old shirtless horseman himself swooped in and then run the show as a dictator for the better part of over 20 years. 20 years. It's crazy to think someone like that's been in office for 20 years. Imagine any of our presidents now that have been on office for almost 20 years. You can just think about I wonder if George W. was a president for 20 years, or a president like FDR. You can imagine someone for 20. You just gotta get tired of those people. Russia's gonna be like, I'm getting real tired and bored of this. But then again, if they say anything, they just get killed. So whatever. Anyway, so get to the kind of like the more now, kind of like when I was born. So in the early 90s. Ukraine said, Soviet Union, it's a bunch of stupid boopy heads. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want that. They got their own flag, had their own independence, had their own pizza party, and they're like, yeah, we're done. And they did that for about a greater portion of about 30 years. And there's been some problems with that, along with a couple other nations that are also part of Ukraine, that Russia was kind of like, yeah, dude, those are ours. And we're like, no, not really. And they're like, but we wanted to have them. And Ukraine's like, no, how about you just leave us the fuck alone? But there have been great tensions ever since then. Somewhat an armistice on the border. It's kind of what's going on with like North and South Korea, whatever. And there's been a hell of a lot of, hey, I don't really like you brewing. And it's been a long time coming to a head. Then in 2014, Russia was like, you can kiss my ass. I don't want to share this anymore. Took back the Crimean Peninsula, and there'd been some back and forth, middle fingers and showing ass between the two countries' leaders, not being actually on the same page. And we had some troops that came to the border, some troops left. They were like, hey, we're here to play. And they were like, nah, we're not doing this. Some troops came in, they left again. It's kind of been like a really blue-balled version of Red Rover, come on over. So the world was like, well, that doesn't look too great. So here's some guns and some money and some things. They kind of disguised as military aid. Like, well, we don't want to give you soldiers, because that looks like we're going to help you militarily. And that's gonna put us part of the problem, and we don't kind of want to be part of that problem right now. But Putin was like, you know what? I don't feel like I just want to be able to play this game a little safe. He's like, we're gonna put some tanks, kind of like in Ukraine, and be like, well, these tanks are kind of just for peace. He just points them at people with loaded barrels, and he's like, as he puts his fingers behind his back. Now we're here today at the invasion of Ukraine, and President Zelensky is saying, give me some help. Like, Jesus Christ, I was like, I've been good this whole time. I've been having to put up with this dumbass next door neighbor for the better part of 30 years. Not just me, but like my other predecessors as well. Can we just like not have old Uncle like Tommy looking over us and be like, give me your lawn, get off my lawn, you stupid insert racist thing here or whatever. It's just ridiculous. So, and then the whole like Donetsk and Lob. Oh God, Jesus, this is I'm a white guy, I can't pronounce it. Donetsk and Luhansk were Russia's step before. So these are two provinces in Ukraine, or two places in Ukraine that were part of Russia. We're kind of Russia's, but they're in Ukraine, and Russia's like, they're kind of ours, and like Russia's like, no, that's kind of mine. And well, I just got tired of saying they were in this control or whatever. Neither here nor there. So, but what's going on in today with this war? There's some crazy stories, some even more ridiculous memes, a bunch of other things. Between the huge balls of the Ukrainian ghosts smoking the Ruskies' planes out of the air, and the island of brass balls in Wonderland that said, fuck you, kiss our ass, you're not taking this island. And then they got smoked, but they went down with the largest balls in history. This conflict, quote-unquote conflict, going on in Ukraine now has the world's attention. No one wants World War III. No one wants to go fight someone else's war. No one else wants to turn a blind eye to it, and no one should. This war is, obviously a travesty, bad. And it's a war, it's a conflict. It's kind of almost like a innate civil war, because Ukraine was part of like Russia, like the whole Ottoman Empire times. We're not going to get too far into that, but there's a lot of craziness going on. Big issue, one of the real big issues is like Putin was like, there's going to be dire consequences for anyone that stops him. I'm like, dude, come on, Vlad. Can we just like not be mean? Can we just kind of like figure this out and like not be a dick to other people? Like, bro, like this is like, even some other nations are like, all right, dude, you need to like calm your horses, literally and figuratively. So there's also a bunch of hubbub over NATO getting involved, and am I going to get drafted? Am I going to have to run in PT formations 0-500? Is it going to be like Vietnam, where I put my birthday thing and where I'm going to get picked over this? And, it's funny because like, over in Ukraine right now, Zelensky was just like, yo, if you're 18 to 60, yeah, you're staying. You can't leave because we're gonna win this. We're gonna beat these guys' asses. And the dude just had his 61st birthday. It's like, bro, I'm out. Like, sorry, fam. Like, but then on the other hand, you see pictures of like some 80-year-old dude who packed a briefcase and was like, yeah, I'm fighting the Ruskies because F these mothers, because I'm tired of their bullshit. And then you have guys who are like 16 being like, well, peace? ? Like, no, dude, it's not happening. Like, you need to fight for your homies. So, but neither here nor there. America's not getting involved in ABC. Like, yo, slow it down, Tactical Teddy. Slow your friggin' roll. Put your Twinkies down and set aside your 4 extra large tactical vests and drink some water for once, you friggin' psychopath. Jesus Christ. But no, no one obviously wants to get involved in this. No one wants to necessarily go to war. I mean, and at the end of the day, like, war brings on suffering and a lot of hate, and there's a lot of bad stuff that comes from war, and no one truly wants to go to war. They say like the only people that truly see the end of war are the ones who die, and like that is the truth. I mean, war stays with you for the rest of your life, and I know my family and people that I know personally that have been through war. They never leave that behind, and it's terrible, and you don't want that. And they say wars also like are machines for like boosting the economy and stuff like that, and all other kinds of stuff. And just like they are also ways to destroy the economy. So we just don't want these problems. Putin wants people to stop meddling in his business, but his attitude and how he's doing it is not going to go without consequences. his militaries have already committed war crimes, destroying schools, daycares, and killing innocent civilians and children. It's not cool, dude. It's not cool. He's going to have to answer this, whether he wants to or not. These are war crimes, and they are being justified as war crimes. In my mind, and hopefully in everyone's mind, because they really are war crimes. I just hope that he gets, taken care of for this, because this is just, it isn't a travesty. You look at all these videos now, people that are getting shot with F-14s, people getting shot in the street. You hear the air raid sirens all day and night in Kiev and stuff like that. It's pretty scary. Some pretty scary things. But we as a nation with our allies are taking steps to be decisive. We're doing the sanctions, we're doing A, B, and C. But then people are going to think it's not enough. But that shit isn't being publicized fast enough for the public to attach itself to. There's things being done behind the scenes. There's things that are being accomplished that aren't agreed upon yet. And these talks, like these secret meetings and all this, they're not being publicized because they don't want to be scrutinized. They're throwing these big brain ideas out there, and people are kind of like, we don't know if that's going to be a great idea. So they don't they don't want people to latch onto it. I'm just finishing some of my coffee. Thank God. I want to some of that LaCroix. Anyway, squirrel. No, but there are things being done. You can only put so many sanctions and stuff like that. You want to, you want to do the diplomatic way first. Obviously we've come very far as a civilization to go from, just blowing everyone to smithereens to being like, yo, let's just talk about this, and if not, then we're gonna do this, A, B, and C. But sometimes war is inevitable. Hopefully that's not the case here. I really don't feel like going to Russia. I don't want to. I'd rather not have to deal with marching in some freaking negative 40-degree weather. Look at Napoleon, what happened to him. There's been very few successful invasions of Russia, and it's not a fun time. So I'd rather not do that. So. But hey, it is what it is. If they want to play some games, we'll play some games. So, but this stuff's not going to go away overnight, and this stuff's not going to get figured out. This shit's just not going to go away. This conflict, this war is not going to be done within a week. Hopefully it's done. Hopefully, people say it is done soon. People say it's not. Whether the actual conflict itself is done soon is irrelevant. That's just going to be, I guess, neither here nor there. There's going to be conversation about this. There's going to be on history books. There's going to be a lot that's going to be talked about this. And there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that haven't really been kind of settled in yet. Because there's things that we're going to go over later that are trying to line up with what Pootie Bear wants. And they don't want to give him. But that's beside the point. But as a nation, whether with Joe Biden with a full dinner or not, will do is immaterial. A lot of people have Putin in their sights. And Putin is on the stage right now as the bad guy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So like I said before, this all just happened. And there's going to be history books written about these travesties that are occurring now. And let's write the history now and give the support that we can with what we have. We even, as a nation, stand up for what we believe and make sure the evil does not win. We won't stand by idly and let people bully people around. We watched what happened with Hitler. We watched what happened with Japan. It's things like that. Millions and millions of people dying. That's not good. We won't stand for that. Pootie Bear said he doesn't want to gain any other ground in Ukraine, but we've kind of heard that before. Hitler, Nazi Germany. Bro. Hitler said he wanted to use an ally and then invaded you. Come on, man. Obviously, like I said, we know what happened with there. They got slowed down. The weapons froze. The Broskis had the AK-47s, which can work underwater with 15 pounds of rust on them, with steel bullets made from the ground up teeth of children. Those kind of things. You gotta meet us halfway. How can we believe you as a leader if you meet us halfway? Where is that trust at? Russians are necessarily known to be trustworthy. I'm not saying, like I said, look, this is not a point at all Russians. This is a point at your leadership. But again, This even goes back to like the time with like Trump and stuff like that, and like people, whether your opinion on President Trump is good, bad, in between, doesn't really matter. Your company's leader, your country's leadership will dictate others of who you are as a nation, and that's true with a lot of things. As a corporation, as a unit, as in the military, your company's leadership will dictate that unit. Whether you have a group of really great soldiers, whether you have a group of really great people that you work with, that's all dictated by your leadership. People look at Amazon and they're like, well, look at whatever his freaking name is, Baldy guy. I'm drawing a blank right now, but he with him, like with his workers and stuff like that, he seemed to be like an a-hole because his workers are overworked and they don't get paid and ABC, and like he looks as an a-hole, and the company looks like a mean machine. But I'm sure if you went to a company or a plant and you meet some of those people, I'm sure there's a lot of great people. You go to a unit and you see, oh well, or if you go to, let's say, a military unit and you meet the command team and that, and they seem really squared away, they seem really approachable, and this, and they're like, wow, that must be a really nice unit to be a part of. But maybe you have some really shitty soldiers in there, but you'd be like, oh, but ABC. But neither here nor there. So look, there has to be a way that we can meet in between. And hopefully that we can figure this out from Pootie Bear, and he kind of was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying is true. Let's draw up some diplomatic treaties and let's figure this out. I don't think that's going to be the case. With this, I don't know. I mean, there's so much stuff. Oh, don't mind me. I'm just getting a little bit of LaCroix water here. Coconut, sparkling water, coconut, natural essence, beautiful. Anyway, scatterbrain. But I don't want to point fingers. History has a way of repeating itself. I don't want innocent lives at risk because some old dude is tired of not getting his chance in the political or diplomatic seesaw, or some other analogy of sharing a child's toy. I want to be able to get this over with, find a peaceful resolution, and get it done with. Like I said, no one wants war, no one wants to go on with that. But please, whatever your religious preference, or if you like pineapple on your pizza, which is disgusting, keep the homeboys and girls over in Ukraine your thoughts. There's a lot going on over there right now. There's a lot of destruction. I think as of yesterday, there was like 500 soldiers that died. I don't know if that are soldiers or just personnel in general, but there's a lot of people that have already lost their lives to this senseless conflict. So keep them in your mind. But I'm going to bring this up. So here are some war updates. Oh man, that's bad. War updates as of today. So this is from MSNBC News. Russia-Ukraine's conflict live updates. Battles for Kiev, ABC. Russian troops advanced towards Ukraine's capital early Saturday and street fighting broke out. City officials urged residents to take shelter. Smokes and flames. Many residents of the capital huddled in underground shelters, and officials imposed a strict curfew to root out the enemy. Others taken up arms and made Molotov cocktails to help their armies disperse but stir resistance against Putin's invasion. He's refused to leave the capital. He's saying he believes he's the number one target of the Russian attack. Instead, he has been posting videos in the streets urging people like him in defiance. My man went up with a bunch of his people in the cab in the middle of Kiev and just had a Facebook Live video and said, "Come get me, I ain't leaving." And we've actually, I'm pretty sure I saw something that President Biden's put on there. It was just like, "We can take you out of there to make sure you're safe." And he was like, "No, dude, I got this, homie. I'm actually going to fight for my country. Screw you and whatever." So he's like, okay. So, the U.S. continued to see indications of a viable Ukrainian resistance, along with signs that the resistance is stiffer than the Russians expected. Senior U.S. Defense Department official told reporters during a background briefing Saturday morning. The United States has also had indications that the Russians are increasingly frustrated by their lack of progress, particularly in the north around the capital city of Kiev and Kharkiv, whatever. The nation's second largest city, where Ukrainian troops have dug in amid fierce fighting. To date, the Russian military has launched more than 250 missile launches, officials added. Ukrainian's air forces, meanwhile, is still flying, and the airspace remains contested, not under the control of either country. There are signs of intermittent internet outages in the country, this official said. Additionally, the U.S. has also seen an uptick in how many people are trying to leave the country. This official declined to comment on reports, blah, blah. And let's see. Apparently, we sent an initial $350 million in military assistance to Ukraine. Today, as Ukraine fights with courage and pride against Russia's brutal and unprovoked assault, I've authorized, pursuant to the delegation by the President, an unprecedented third presidential drawdown of up to $350 million for immediate support for Ukraine's defense. Give a bunch of money to them. I mean, I don't know how much money's going to do right now. They kind of need it. They kind of need more, like, machines and weapons right now, but that's beside the point. Anyway, what else we got in this thing? Oh, this is, I thought this was pretty funny. So I guess there was a reporter or a guy named Richard Engel. Apparently, this guy watched Ukrainians tear down road signs in an effort to confuse advancing Russian troops. Like, if you tear down the road sign, and can you just imagine, just for a second, put yourself in the shoes of someone in the mounted unit, especially just you put yourself in a car situation, and you're driving, and you're like, oh, where's Kiev? I can't find Kiev. And you're like looking around, and and then you're like, oh no, this sign says I'm going in the wrong area, and you just kind of like circling around and around, and like, can you imagine just some random dude just going around changing like city signs? And the guys in the front with the tanks are like, no, this is way to Kiev. And the other guys are like, no, this sign says Kiev. And they're just driving around a big ass circle. That's insane. I mean, there's like, we guys have like Google Maps and stuff like that. Like, we have hard maps. And like, hopefully these guys have some kind of terrain association. I would just find this hysterical, especially if that was like the United States military. Like, in any kind of major conflict, and be like, oh yeah, guys, this is the way to Berlin. Well, this sign says Berlin's this way, but this sign says Berlin's this way. I was like, where do we go? How about we just follow like the actual like route? I just thought that was pretty funny. I thought I wanted to bring it up. They said they witnessed road service employees taking down signs at various points along the country to include highway route to Lviv as part of an apparent coordinated effort to confuse Russian forces who may not be familiar with the region. Well, yeah, no crap, but that's why you have... Never mind, that's just ridiculous. Apparently Poland was accepting Ukrainian refugees for... Okay, so that's interesting. I know a buddy of mine who's a Polish guy who's like, he wants to go over there and be some rusky butt, but that's beside the point. Reporting from provincial roads outside of Ukraine's key port city of Mariupol Saturday, NBC's news chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel observed many checkpoints and barricades built by soldiers to protect communities in the region. They've been cutting down trees. They've been putting stones and earth piled up in the middle of the roads. He said that the roads were almost entirely empty and very few people were venturing their homes. Well, I probably wouldn't venture either if I was going to get smashed by some 80-ton tank with huge rounds, but beside the point. Ukrainian soldiers were also placing the yellow and blue colors of the Ukrainian flag on their helmets and uniforms in attempts to distinguish themselves from Russian soldiers and avoid friendly fire. There have been reports that some Russian soldiers were found to be wearing Ukrainian military uniforms and using similar military equipment to the Ukrainian. That's great. And I also read something else where it's like this grandma who was giving out sunflower seeds, and it was just like, and they were like, oh, that's nice, and they were like, put this in your pocket. It's like, so at least when you die, you'll be useful. You'll actually sprout sunflowers when you die on the Ukrainian soil. It was pretty funny. Huddled in the basement of a hotel in the heart of Kiev, Ukraine's capital, Osanka, and her husband woke Friday. Sirens blared and Russian shells thudded and crunched. Yeah, there's a lot of destruction going on right now in Kiev with airstrikes and everything. People are very scared. It's hard to express. It's hard to put into words what's going on. Obviously, war is hell. Wow. What else we got going on here? So, Russia's begun limiting access to Twitter, with an internet watchdog reporting Saturday the platform restricted on many of its country's major internet providers. That blocks an internet monitoring organization said in the blog post, the restrictions are an effort across multiple providers and come as Russian authorities and social media platforms clash over platform rules in relation to the conflict with Ukraine. Confirmed. Live metrics show that Twitter has been restricted on multiple providers in Russia as of 9 a.m. The incident comes as the government clashes with social media platforms over policy in relation to the Ukraine conflict. There's a whole bunch of stuff on this one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next article. See what else we got. Land and air attacks. A whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, like a lot of barriers and stuff like that. Let's see what else. This is another one. This is an article I found. This is a picture you guys can really see, but there's 3 or 4 ladies, all with, it looks like some kind of version of the AK. Here we go. Julie, a teacher and Ukrainian volunteer, weeps as she waits to be deployed to fight Russian troops around Kiev on Saturday. So you have women going out in their fight for their country. And like you watch these videos and stuff like that, and you think like if there was ever a fight that came to America's soil, we have millions and millions of guns and millions of owners of guns who would gladly stand up and kill anyone who decided to invade America. And then you have these people who are just teachers who are like, you know what, fuck them. This one is from the New York Times. Ukrainian forces battle Russian assault on 3 cities. Ukraine's defense forces, outmanned and outgunned, waged a ferocious resistance to the Russian invasion on Saturday, battling to keep control of the capital Kiev and other cities. There were intense street fighting, and bursts of gunfire and explosions could be heard across Kiev. Here are the latest developments. The Kremlin said that Russian forces were resuming their advance on Ukraine on Saturday, claiming that President Vladimir Putin had ordered a pause on Friday, while possible talks with Ukraine were being considered. Russia has established attack lines in the 3 cities: Kiev in the north, Kharkiv in the northeast, and Kherson in the south. Videos and photos showed a residential building struck by a missile in southwest Kiev, about 1.5 miles from the airport. President Zelensky of Ukraine said in the video that his country's fighters had withstood and successfully repelled enemy attacks. Mayor of Kiev imposed a curfew from 5 p.m. Across Ukraine, people huddled in air raid shelters, lined up at bank machines, and stocked up on essentials. Prime Minister of India urged Ukraine to resume dialogue with Russia in a call Saturday with President Zelensky. The 2 leaders spoke after India abstained from a United Nations Security Council vote on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. India released a statement after the vote saying its abstention allowed it to continue reaching out to both sides of the conflict. Mr. Modi expressed India's willingness to contribute in any way towards peace efforts. That's cool. That's good stuff. It's a 4-mile traffic jam in Ukraine's border as people flee. Yeah, I can imagine. That's got to be terrifying. Satellite images collected on Friday show a 4-mile traffic jam of vehicles trying to leave Ukraine at a southwestern border crossing with Romania. As Russian offense has intensified, Ukrainian civilians have tried to flee, causing long lines of traffic throughout the country. On Saturday, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees on Twitter said that 150,000 Ukrainian refugees have crossed into neighboring countries. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement that it had ordered all units to advance in all directions after what it called Kiev's rejection of negotiations. It asked Ukrainians to urge their government to remove all heavy weaponry from urban areas immediately. The ministry also said that Russia-backed separatist forces had captured a number of Ukrainian villages. Zelensky's trying to get people together and say, hey, you want to fight? Let's fight. Let's just hold this country. This is our country. We're free people. Let's go fight our country. As Russian troops lay siege to Kiev, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, again appeared on camera Saturday to furnish proof of his continued presence in his country's capital, praised his outgunned and outmanned military, and beseeched Western countries for their support. He stated, "We have withstood and successfully repelled enemy attacks," Mr. Zelensky said in the video posted about noon local time. The latest of several speeches he has released. The fighting continues in many cities and the districts of our state. But we know that we protect the country, the land, and future of our children. I have no words. Ukrainians escaped to neighboring Poland. And it's a terrible thing to look at all these pictures and stuff like that. People, it's a lot. And these are just a lot of small snippets from people that are just reporting. I guess reporters from all inside Ukraine. More than 150,000 Russian forces massed against Ukraine are now fighting in the country, but those troops are increasingly frustrated by the lack of momentum, as there is a stiff Ukrainian resistance, which is good. The United States said on Friday that 1/3 of Russia's combat power was fighting in Ukraine. That's a lot of people. After being told, the people of Lviv, Ukraine, were being asked to search the streets with black lights to find fluorescent paint used by Russian agents who have infiltrated the city to direct missile strikes and to kick dirt over them if they find something. I went looking for the dirt, looked at a place. It didn't take long. On a street near the Church of the Holy Eucharist Cathedral, there was a pile of dirt in a weird place, just like the ones I looked for. I have no idea what was under the dirt, but I have no idea what could target a missile to Beale Street if held in It's just crazy, man. It's a lot. It goes on and on. There's a lot of stuff. What else is this? Turkey had banned the passage of Russian warships through the Black Sea. Wow, this is different. Thanked the Turkish president for support. Turkey has also so far denied the action, but Mr. Zelensky thanked Turkey for significant military and humanitarian support. Zelensky said, "I thank my friend Mr. President of Turkey, RTE, Erdogan, and the people of Turkey for their strong support. The ban on the passage of Russian warships to the Black Sea and significant military and humanitarian support for Ukraine are extremely important today. The people of Ukraine will never forget that." Yeah, and then I just see a bunch of videos of all the destruction and stuff like that. You know, this stuff sucks. More sucks and more is hell. And, you know, you never want to see this kind of destruction, this kind of hatred towards anyone. And, you know, obviously, there's going to be a lot of events that unfold after this. You know, if, you know, what you call it? I had a brain fart. Vladimir Putin's Russian army is very strong. And he will eventually, with his resources and his military tactics, will overcome Ukraine. If he persists. He will. You know, and, you know, where does that land with us? Where does it end with allies? Because, you know, the United States stated that they will not actually put boots on ground as far as to fight Russians face-to-face, hand-to-hand combat unless they actually physically attack a NATO nation. If Ukraine becomes part of a NATO nation, which they haven't agreed to yet, that would mean America would go necessarily with war with Russia. Terrifying to think of. Terrifying, but potentially a reality. Scary to think of, but also not too far-fetched. Not too far-fetched at all. It's on the minds of everyone in America to go fight in this war, and there's just a lot of pieces that still remained lost. Just almost like putting it together like 1,000 word, well, in this case, like a 10,000 piece puzzle that's almost the size of an entire room. And you have all these pieces from all parts of the world, and everyone has their own hand in inserting these pieces. And Russia has a lot of pieces. I would say Russia has about 9,500 pieces as far as this war. But there's a lot of nations that have a lot of other pieces of the puzzle that they need to put their own stop to. And if the big picture, the big piece of the puzzle and picture of this is Russia taking over Ukraine, well, we need to find those pieces and we need to throw them away. We need to dig against this tyranny and fight them. We can't afford to have a tyrannical government, a tyrannical leader, kill and maim innocent lives. War is hell. War is shitty. And, you know, I never wish war upon my worst enemy. Because of not just the physical toll, but the emotional and, you know, physiological toll that it takes on. It's not just the person itself, the people that are fighting, but the families. I hope this ends soon. I hope we can find a way to peacefully resolve this issue. I don't think it's going to end as soon as people think. Regardless of whether the actual fighting stops, the actual fighting might stop soon. But the actual intentions and the actual overall breadth of this is going to last quite some time. And, you know, this isn't going to go away. Vladimir Putin isn't going to just give up one day and say, nah, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't think that's going to happen. He spent many millions, billions to get to where he is now. And he isn't going to stop. It's hard to say, it's hard to pinpoint an actual plan that's going to happen. If he gets what he wants, is he going to stop? Maybe. But the worst part is maybe not. Does he then go into Poland? Does he then go into Belarus, Belgium, Hungary, Germany, France, England? Did they try to rebuild the Ottoman Empire? What do they really want? Did they want total control? Or do they just want what they think that's theirs? Think about this. Say, we give in to them. Say we as a nation say, you know what? That was yours. That piece of land was yours, and we should stay out of it. Let me bring this to your attention. You may or may have not heard of Palestine, Israel. All those names, the fighting that happens over there. Well, people think that they own this and people think that they own that. Well, you know what? Just let them do it. If we just let people do what they want as far as killing and maiming people, we're going to have a lot of blood in our own hands. You know, I know they say America doesn't want to they're not the world's police, and they're not. But we have a lot of influence. We have a lot of say in the matter. And being the bigger person, being the better person, we need to stand up for what we believe is right. Whether you have your own personal opinions about our president, you know, President Putin, President Zelensky, you know, we have a piece of this puzzle that we as Americans have a right to say and have a right to think how we can be part of the solution. If we sit back and we don't do anything, we're just adding to the travesty and the killing of innocents. And it's terrible to think about, you know, like, where do we start? What do we take off of them? And, you know, us doing all these sanctions against Russia. Oh, man. It's a start. It's a start, but it's also, what's the word? Hopefully it means to an end. We don't want to impose sanctions against Russia. At the end of the day, we all want to get along. I asked someone one of these days, it was like, you know what? Well, how cool would it be? How cool would it be to be able to go anywhere you want in the world without the fear of reprise, without the fear of being killed, without the fear of being objectified to some personal belief? How crazy would it be? Just being able to go wherever you want in the world and be like, welcome. Thanks for showing up. It's not going to be a reality in the world today. It's never going to be in the reality ever. I've had couple people on this podcast alone that says this world is the way it is for a bunch of various different reasons. And everyone has their own opinion about those reasons. Hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement with this. And this probably isn't going to be the only podcast that we talk about the Ukrainian and Russian war, conflict, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure I'll probably bring up more stuff here in the near future. I just hopefully can figure out a way that we can come together in the world as a nation to stop these conflicts like this. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It may happen next week. This may go on for a year. Who knows? But we can't let up. We can't let them feel like they're alone. Women and children and fathers out there are losing loved ones, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, dads, moms, just because of one person's ideal of a perfect nation. We all remember when Hitler said that too. He thought of a perfect nation of Aryan, white, blue-eyed, and blonde-haired individuals. Perfect, quote-unquote, perfect members of society. When he was anything but. Vald and President Z, 70 years old. His prime time of being a leader is pretty much gone. It's up to us to build the leader of the nation to stop people like this from becoming the next leaders of our nation. There's people in St. Petersburg right now that are protesting this, and they're being arrested and probably killed to fight against the ideas of someone else. And we have our own personal protests, I'm sure, that are come up to help Ukraine, and hopefully that is the case. Luckily, we're part of a nation that believes in freedom of speech. Hopefully, people of Russia that are against this war sway the masses. I just don't think that's going to happen. Vladimir has his own agenda, and that's just going to be what it is. It's going to take more than just his own people to sway the opinion of him. And I hope one day we can figure this out. And it's going to be soon, because there's going to be a lot of innocent civilians. They're going to be killed. Women and children. More war crimes committed. And we need to stick together to fight against this. But I digress. There's a whole lot I can say about this war. There's a whole lot I can get into with history and tensions and A, B, and C and all the kind of stuff that comes from everything. Because you got to remember, all this stuff stems from many, many years of fighting and killing and maiming and personal beliefs about who's better and I'm better than you and ABC. But this is a perfect example. Everyone puts their shirt on the same way. Everyone puts their pants on the same way, no matter who you are, from a CEO to a janitor. We're all people with hearts, feelings, and beliefs about what a perfect world really should be. No one's always right all the time. No one's always right 24/7. Everyone has their issues. Everyone has their own personal dilemmas, I guess you could say. But compromise, thought, reading, history, this all comes into play. It all comes into how we can better ourselves for a better future. And hopefully the minds of the bee take that in consideration and use that to blot out the hatred and killing that's going on today in Ukraine. But with all this being said, I always side with peace over war. Being in the military, seeing people who've seen terrible things in wartime, have lost friends, suicides, combat, ABC. You don't wish war upon your worst enemy. But I will always be on the side of freedom over tyranny any day. And freedom for the people of Ukraine, freedom for the people of Russia, and freedom of the people from all over the world. But on that note, thank you again for tuning in. Stay tuned in for next week's episode of Fireside Chats. Not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do, so maybe I can get another person on here we can chat. Whether it be about Russia, motorcycles, bombs, bears, Battlestar Galactica, whatever. It can be about anything, but we'll get there at that point. I just want to say, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for always listening. Thanks for giving me the credit. Thanks for the time of day. Please, if you always want to be part of my channel, you can always just give me a comment on my page, Fry the Cap Guy. It's on Facebook. I'm also a Fry the Cap Guy that's on Instagram, and there's also a Fry the Cap Guy that's on YouTube. Reach out, talk to me. Give me some topics. If you want to chime in for one of my podcasts, give me some ideas, or just chime in. Give me a call. Give me a phone call. I'm only a call away. I mean, I would more than willing to have you on even just a speakerphone and have a conversation with you on my phone. You don't even have to sit next to me. I can just have you through my phone. We can chat about whatever. And I would love to have that. I would love to have some kind of influence and some kind of other people's opinions about life and life's crazy mysteries with me. But until next time, my friends, stay safe, pray for Ukraine, and as always, thank you for everything you do for me, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.